Welcome back to Match Night. Wheeler Wilson Conway with you. Saturday's Canadian Premier League match between Vancouver and York United marked the midway point of the 2024 campaign. So I'm going to put these guys to work because I want to know their thoughts on the potential frontrunners for the year-end awards that will be on the offing, or out there for the offing. So we made an unofficial list for each and every category there will be awards presented for in the Canadian Premier League after the season wraps up. All right, so let's start off with our Canadian Premier League Player of the Year, and this is the top 5 on our unofficial mid-season shortlist. By the way, I had no idea who we had to pass this through, who was part of the decision-making process, but this is what they came up with. Manny Aparicio, Tristan Borges, Ruben Del Campo, Kwesi Poku, Brian Wright. All 5 players play for Ontario teams. Rest of the country will not like that. Is this list just about right? And who would be the front runner in your eyes, Jordan Wilson?
I think someone that needs to be mentioned and should be up there is Benny Bedabanga. For me, a quality player. But the halfway point, I think people are also forgetting, John, the beginning, the first 5-6 games, there was one name everyone was talking about, Tristan Borges. And he had a great start. The middle of the season, you could say a little bit of a dip, but I wouldn't even say that. In terms of quality performances and a guy stepping up, he was that guy for me. But I'm so curious, John, if you feel different or if there's someone else that sticks out to you.
Yeah, I feel a little bit different here, Jordan. Surprise, surprise.
John!
I think Manny Aparicio, for me.
Yeah, I knew it was coming.
Best player on the best team.
I knew it was
best
coming.
Team, best player, leads the league in tackles. He's got 3 goals. He's got 1 assist. He makes that midfield tick. He's up and down the
whole
field.
Team. He really has.
He runs his tail off every night, and I think he's the best player in the league.
I think it's fair to say, and I know Wheels, I've been with you long enough, I know you're going to say that he single-handedly has kind of turned that squad around. In terms of everyone around him, he's just that energy source, right? He really gets them going. He makes them a bit more linear, makes them a bit more dynamic in that midfield. So it's fair. Halfway through, I can't argue with them.
Any names left off the list that should have been there? I have a couple. Badebanga's one. Stephen Yates for me has been really good.
That's a good shout.
I like underrated good. What about Moses Dyer, the way that he started off the season with Vancouver? I'm not sure if there's any other names that come to mind for you guys. Those were a couple names. Oftentimes in this league, like this award goes to like a midfielder, like an out-and-out number 9, like Poku, Del Campo. This could be a year where number 9 is like really in the mix to take that mantle.
I feel like Del Campo, if he bags a couple more,
yeah.
and they win the league as well. I mean, that could be
I don't
easy
disagree
decision.
with that. But Del Campo, if he continues on this trend of goal scoring and they get end at the top of the table and really set themselves apart, like he'd be in the mix as well for this.
All right, U21 Canadian Premier League Player of the Year. Here's our list. Noah Batney, York United. Gabriel Antonoro, Atletico Ottawa. Emil Gazdov with Pacific. I love this guy. The youth, Eric Lajeunesse of Pacific, and Kwesi Poku of Forge. What do you make of that, John?
You know, as a member of the goalkeeper union, I would love to go with Gazdov.
He's been great.
He's been great. I'm a little hesitant because the job that Poku has done, going from defender to forward, the impact he's made for Forge, the impact he's made in this league, for me, is the U21 Player of the Year.
Jordan?
It's not even up for discussion for me. Like, who's a front runner by a mile? Kwesi Poku.
Because goalkeepers don't count? Is that right?
No, I'm not going to get into that. Don't do it, Wheels. Don't do it. While there's a 6'5" goalkeeper to my left, just breathing down my shoulder. Is that Wheels are trying to stitch me up over here? No, for me, Kwesi Poku, it has to be. He's been so dynamic. Also, for me, I love a underdog story, and him finishing second last year and even speaking to him, he was gutted, but it went to the rightful candidate and DeBrienne, who was a bit better, but he's come back this season and been that good. For me, it's a shoo-in. Even if he doesn't score another goal, for me, still with what he's done this season, U21 Player of the Year.
Just want to say, like, Gareth Wheeler has a favorite group of players in this league I like watching. And Noah Batney and Eric Lajeunesse are 2 of them.
Great young
I love
players.
watching both of these players play.
A lot of potential.
So I think it's worthwhile to give them a shout-out on this list. Defender of the Year. Interesting, because on this list, there's no Ashley Janssen, no Klump, no Nimick. We have Fraser Aird, Amir Didic, Thomas Mayer-Jaguar of Pacific, Daniel Parra of Forge, and Juan Quintana, who stepped in for Ali Endom when he went out and has been very good for Pacific as well. Probably the best defensive team across the Canadian Premier League in Pacific. Jordan, have your say, former defender in this league?
It's tough because I thought it was deplorable how we got a red card today. But Para, for me, has been one of the best left backs, period. Like, for me, you get Awua and my boy Abzi, I think probably the 2 top left backs ever. But Para, with this season, with the 14 games or 15 games that he's played, he has to be up there in the discussion, John.
It's funny you bring up left back because I'm going off the board, too, with a left back, and I'm going with Femi Antonoglu. And I'm going to tell you why, and this is my reasoning. He leads the league in interceptions, 34 interceptions. To me, that's a guy that's reading the play, reading the position. He doesn't always have to be tackling guys. I don't think being the best defender means you're laying tackles all the time. Being the best defender is reading the game, understanding where you need to be, picking off passes, and he's doing that.
Yeah.
He's also got 5 assists. And when he gets in the attack and whips good crosses in, he had one today, led to the goal. Laid a nice ball across, the ball bounced around and was able to get put in the back of the net. I think for me, he's been excellent this year.
I just want to give a shout out to Fraser Aird because the cavalry attack has really gone down that right-hand side. It's so lopsided. He's so active, involved in everything that cavalry does. And Thomas Meyer-Jaguar loses his partner in Didic, is playing with a whole new back line. It's very different at times, even with injuries, and he's kept that group together. TMG absolutely deserves a shout-out as well. Golden Glove time. We'll turn to our resident goalkeeping expert in John Conway. Emil Gazdov, Callum Irving, Chris Kalongo. Look who's not on this list.
I'm excited for this one.
Carducci. What do you make of this, John?
Talk
Who
to
would
me,
be your
John.
front runner?
Talk to me.
I guess. I mean, listen, all 3 very good goalkeepers. And again, I mentioned Gazdov. I'm impressed by him so far this year as a young goalkeeper. Kalongo been equally as impressive in his moments. But I got to go Callum Irving. You know, I've seen him make a ton of saves, keeping his team in it.
Over Gazdov? Callum over?
Listen, right now, we're mid-season.
It's okay, John.
I'm going with Callum Irving.
I like it. You know what won him over? I know John very well, was that save in Kelowna. That grab.
That
grab probably got you
very
over.
Good.
That should have been a goal for sure for Calvary.
And early on in the year, I saw him make a bunch of saves, even though they weren't getting the results a lot of times.
He's keeping them in
games.
Yeah.
And I think it's super important. These other guys, don't get me wrong, they're 2 young goalkeepers who, by the way, if the league, you know, they stay in the league, they continue to grow, they're 2 guys that I could see moving on to somewhere else. Like Gazdov, for me, is on the board at a lot of teams, and I've gotten a lot of questions about him from teams outside of CPO. I won't mention who they are, but they're asking about him, and they're wondering what his deal is, and I've been, you know, positive about everything. Obviously, the game against Vancouver a few weeks ago, he was absurd in that game. I thought it was great for a young goalkeeper to step up in that moment and really put on a good performance. I think he just needs to continue doing that. I'm a little hesitant with all this because young goalkeepers, I like to see consistency. And they need to be consistent throughout the year. And I'm afraid of dips because they're young. But so far, so good with these guys. And we'll see where they end up at the end of the year. But you're asking me at the midway point, I go with Calma.
Good breakdown. Good breakdown. We'll leave that there. Finally, last but certainly not least, the Coach of the Year candidates. Well, Bobby Smirniotis is up there, but we all know that the Canadian Premier League season plays out and he doesn't win the award because he's never won this award somehow. Carlos Gonzalez, and this is the most controversial one by the one soccer team that put this together. Benjamin Mora has had 7 games in charge, and all of a sudden he makes this list. I know that York has been approved. So he's only been there for half the games. He can't be on this list. Such disrespect to James Merriman, I'm telling you.
A quarter of the season and he's on there.
You know, it's the pipes or something. He's intimidating. He's like, you gotta put him on this list. He's been great. He's been great.
For sure. Lots of respect.
I mean, if Carlos Gonzalez and Ottawa win the league this year, does it really happen again? Bobby Smirniotis not winning this award? It seems like Bobby's got to win it this year, no matter what happens.
No, it could easily happen. I'll tell you this. I think Ottawa is winning the lead, Atletico Ottawa. And then I think you give Carlos Gonzalez the Coach of the Year award, and that would be the 6th year. That probably for me the most impressive, and we have loads of respect for Bobby Smirniotis. But that's another year that he doesn't win it. It's gonna. If Atletico Ottawa win, Carlos Gonzalez.
So if you win the regular season, that coach wins the award. That's how you're judging?
I will say that because you're saying they didn't make playoffs last year, they finished 6th, and they go on and finish 1st this year. You're giving it to him.
Okay, I agree with you. I think if this goes the distance and Ottawa wins, I think he's the Coach of the Year. The only caveat is this.
Let's hear it.
Bobby Smirniotis beats Montreal.
I love it,
Bobby
John.
Smirniotis
Come on, John.
beats Toronto FC.
Yep.
I give him the coach of the year immediately after. If they go into Toronto and they
Love
win
this, John.
and they get into the final of the Canadian Championship, no matter if they win or lose, he beats 2 MLS teams on his run.
That's a different
He's gonna say
competition.
it?
That's a
I
camp
get
champ.
it, but it's
He's gonna
coach of the
say
year.
it? Look,
you
if-
got to be
No, it's fair.
evaluated.
It's the full year.
If Forge get anywhere close, if they just don't fall off a cliff, Bobby Smirniotis wins this award. I'm sorry. It can't be, like, even the year, like, I just don't understand. He wins every year, yet he never wins this award because they find a reason why someone else is more deserving of the award. I don't get it. He should win the Coach of the Year this year, but it's up to the voters. Democracy wins, everyone. Democracy. One Soccer Today, a highly democratic show. Mondays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. where we all have our say, some voices louder than others,
Talk
on
about me, Will?
Canadian soccer. I was kind of talking about Adam Jenkins, but Match Night continues next.